Okay, so now I'm going to show you on your 1022 how to change the hammer, and what you're going to do is drop the trigger assembly again, 2 pins. You'll see I have the aftermarket hammer in already, but I'm still going to show you how to replace it. So what we're going to do is first we need to relieve pressure on the spring, on the bolt release spring. And so what you're going to do is take the pin right here, push it inward a little, about halfway, and it'll take the pressure off the spring. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and release the hammer, and if you push it forward, you can take out the hammer spring, which just sits in a little groove. Okay. Now your new hammer is going to probably come with a new spring. You can decide to use it or not. I've heard people do both. If you do replace it, like I did with this one, what you're going to have to do is compress the spring, slide off the retaining clip. You're going to put your new spring on and compress it while putting the clip on. It's much easier said than done, I'm sure you can imagine. Alright, so now what we're going to do is go ahead and push out the hammer pin, which is right here, and go ahead and knock this out. From there, your hammer and the hammer bushings and the spring will all come out. Okay. Do set the spring aside, and most hammers come with shims. You can see them on here. They go on the inside of the bushing, so you can replace those, the shims on the hammer. Alright, so you would put those on your new hammer, put the spring back on, make sure the indented part of the spring is on the bottom. And actually, a quick note, most hammers also come with a new trigger return spring. Now, to get this out is a little more tricky. This is where most of the time is going to go. You're going to push this pin out right here, which is the trigger pin. It also holds, let me make sure you can see, it also holds the sear, and there's my pointer. It also holds your sear, and this is part of the trigger. And these two parts are two pieces, and in the middle of them is a spring. Alright, so when you take this pin out, those pieces are all going to come out, the bottom, or the top rather. And then from there, this plunger will come out, and there's the spring behind it that you can replace. The tricky part is you have to get these two pieces, they share the same pin, so you have to get them together with the spring between them, which has its own little spring pockets, so it's real obvious when you take it apart. But the tricky part is getting that into the receiver and getting the pin through it without having the spring fall out. And it's going to take a couple tries, but it's simple as far as it goes together. So anyway, if you do that, that's fine. Once you do that, you'll be ready to put the hammer back in, and basically it just goes right in. You're going to want to line it up with the pinhole, like so, and reinsert your pin. Alright, now what I would do is put the hammer forward again. If you've assembled this, you're going to want to make sure, notice, there's a slot in the retaining clip that slot's going to point upwards, and there's just a hole in the back, and you just set it in. It just sits right behind the hammer, and that's that. At this point, I would go ahead and cock the hammer back, just get it out of your way. You can have your spring here. Again, make sure that the indented part of the spring is on the bottom, sitting inside the groove of the bolt release. And now, what you're going to do is that pin that you pushed halfway out already, it should still be out, mine slid back in. You're going to push the top of the spring down, put the pin back in, and you are done. Go ahead and function check it. Everything's good. Go ahead and check your other parts just to make sure. And you are ready for reassembly.